Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another Supercoach Insider podcast. My name is Swizz. Special episode today as we head towards the official opening of Supercoach, but also as we count down to that the round zero, which is less than probably 7 weeks away of time of recording. We are looking at different strategies, and today we're talking Supercoach strategy, unique team, and we've got my good mate Abs from the Supercoach, I should say SuperCodfather Podcast. How are you, mate?
Very good. It's actually SCodfather. Okay,
SCodfather. I should actually
SCodfather.
say that. I should know that.
Yeah, but Supercoach Godfather sounds nice too. It makes me sound more official. Just calm it down.
I always think of you as the Godfather, mate. The Godfather of. I know Jock Reynolds probably was back in the day, but you've definitely moved into that role now, mate.
Yeah, well, he was my favorite. I love Jock Reynolds, and I was a passion just to listen to him. I couldn't wait till his episodes came on. And it was actually sad that when he didn't do it anymore, and there was nothing to watch. I mean, besides all the quality out there, but there's no one as old as him, like me now, the old men, the grandpas. There was all the young people out there. But anyway, I'm trying to do as much as I can.
And we were having a bit of a chat off air. We're on the man shakes at the moment, so you and I having a bit of a different refreshment than what I'm probably used to on these insider podcasts.
Yes, actually, we had to have a break, and both of us go on the men's shake, which was quite funny because I didn't realize that you're on it as well, and it's actually done me good. I recommend it to anyone. It's I lost my 5 kgs in 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks yet. Actually, it has been 2 weeks, so it's been good for me.
Yeah, man, shake if you're out there listening. With people are happy for you guys to come and sponsor us. do it because we swear by it. But before we jump into today's episode, as always, check us out on all our social media platforms, in particular YouTube, Spotify. Get in contact with us, Supercoach Insider 100 and Swizz26 on X. Mate, where can the good people find you?
Well, I'm on X as well. I was going to say Twitter, but it's now X, and also the SCodfather channel, or just type in Spuds and you'll find it.
I love it, mate. I love it. All right, so we are talking strategy now. One of the things where a lot of people do when the percentages open, when Supercoach opens, you get the sort of percentage, especially when you're with Supercoach Gold, but they usually give you free access to that in the preseason. And you'll see a lot of people will pick very similar teams, which is kind of a cookie cutter situation. So cookie cutter comes from you lay out the dough, you get that little cookie cutter, the little gingerbread man, and it's the same thing over and over and over. They all match each other. And that's all well and good. Like, you're not going to lose ground with the pack. But the problem with Supercoach, say there's 200,000 playing, the bottom 20% are probably just, auto-fill teams, mates who are just filling in or family who are just trying to fill in leagues and stuff. So you kind of discount those 40,000. The real top expert players, and not even expert, there's just probably people just follow us. And that's a big group these days because you can see like even 20,000, 40,000 sort of know what they're talking about. And the movement probably through the ranks there is a little bit harder because a lot of them do have kind of unique players and they're really more tuned in. And then you get this huge bunch of players. So, it'd be 120,000 players where most of the teams are very similar. And you do see a lot of changes in ranks because they're kind of just relying on their vice captain options each week. And if they get a unique captain option, which goes well, they move up a lot. But moving up in that range is all well and good, but you're not actually probably making ground on some of the top players. And the top players are the ones that do have these unique players and identify that. Now, in saying that, we're going to make a whole team of what we think is unique, which is going to be hard because we actually don't have the percentages yet. So it will be interesting when sort of come end of January, we can you guys can compare it to see how close we were to identifying not just unique players, because anybody could sit there and say, okay, we're going to pick Libba, for example, like I unfortunately did last year, but I wouldn't think he's an actual option this year. Well, Abs might, but where we're actually trying to identify unique players in it as a whole team where you'd actually consider them for your starting Supercoach side. And if you can pick these unique players, you will get ahead of the pack, not just in your leagues, but overall ranking. And that's what this man, especially with his weapon every year, does an awesome job at.
Well, I've got a new weapon. My weapon was going to be Will Day. Unfortunately, I think everyone's going to jump on him, so is no longer is not eligible to become a weapon. So we've got a new weapon now, which will
I actually
announce.
think I think his ownership won't get over that top 10%. So a lot of time in Unique, we're talking under top 10% of players. So I actually think he'll be under, mate. I'm happy to throw him in this side because I can actually see not as many people jumping on him because there's, I think, other people in a cheaper price range that they're going to jump on, like your Olivers and Ashcrofts. And I think Day might get. He'll have some love, but not as much as compared to some of the others.
Yeah, and that'd be a bonus if he's a pod. That'd be a huge bonus.
Mate, I'm going to back him in. I'm going to put him in as our first player here because I actually think he's not going to get over that top 10% mark.
Right,
I just got a kind of feeling. So I think
his
your man
mate's
Will
there.
Day deserves in here.
He's got his mate right next to him, John Newcomb, who's also going to be a pod, and we don't know what he's going to do.
You go on.
His back end last year was unbelievable.
It really was. It really was. He's and this was obviously to do with Hawthorn's form. The worry is, can they, with the sort of tougher fixture, recreate what they sort of had going last season? But they are quality players, and a lot of people are backing them to continue the climb up the ladder. Did finish off the season with a 140 and a 162. So yeah, if he's in that sort of mood. And again, like a bit like Will Day, it was a slow start, and he obviously didn't have Day in those early rounds. So he did have 3 scores in the 60s, but his second half of the year was absolutely flying.
Yeah, and well, the funny thing is, those big scores were also when Day wasn't playing at the end. So Day takes up a lot of his points. So it could also be like when Day scored a 140, I think it was against Port Adelaide. Our boy Newcomb didn't score many. I think he scored like 60. So they sort of steal points off each other.
For sure. All right. So who is that weapon now, mate, that you're looking at? If you don't mind sharing that with the greater community.
Well, he's in a defensive line, and it's Lockie Whitfield. Not many will pick him because he's got that early buy, and so he's going to be a massive weapon for me anyway. So I'd say he'd be under 5% guaranteed.
100% he will be. Yep, 100%. And his only game from after the bye that he went under 100 was 97 on that run home.
Yeah, it's a huge run home, and imagine having a player that's going to score 110s, 120s nonstop, and no one's got him. And by the time they get him, probably go up to about 650, 700. So if he continues that rate of scoring, so he'll be very hard to own if you don't start him.
Mate. For sure, that's right. And like kind of looking at these other options, like Flanders was the top player. I think you and I are both on the kind of sort of train that we think he might be a little bit of bust. I think you more than me. I think it's role dependent. But wouldn't even with that, like if he didn't have the early buy, I wouldn't potentially be going there. But I think his ownership's still going to be reasonably high. Sheasel's going to be one of the most highly owned defenders as it is. Ryan will still have popular. Zorko might not be as much, but I know that he's got his fans. McGovern was great for people last year. Sinclair's going to be highly owned. Houston's missing round 0 anyway. So there might be a few people that don't jump on him. So I'm kind of having a look through that list there, and I think most of these guys might share the percentage. What are your thoughts on these sort of top-end premiums, mate?
The governor could be interesting. He's going to take all the kick-ins. But then again, I haven't seen what the new coach has with McQualter. I don't know if McQualter's going to give him the kick-ins. But if he takes those kick-ins, the thing, because I owned McGovern last year, all right? Yep. And he'd be on 70 at halftime without doing anything. He'd be on 70. There'd be games where he would do nothing in the third quarter. And then because he's a defender, so the ball has to get there. And in the last quarter, before you know it, he's on 110 and 120, and all he does is a couple of kicks. So he's actually a scoring machine if he gets his hands on the ball. And last year, he wasn't taking those big marks compared to previous years. So I think he's actually got room for improvement. But I'd be hesitant to start him because of the fact that they've lost one big, tall defender, and we're not sure if he's going to be now the main defender who's going to play on the fullbacks or if he's going to be a loose guy. So that's the only risk of the governor.
Yep, and that's fair. The guy I really like, and he's actually in my team at the moment, which I don't think a lot of people are going to probably bypass, is Jordan Clark. I think Freo are on the improve. I think he's a better version of Jaden Short, where he can break the lines, but he can also run up. They'll give him a bit more freedom now to get that handball, receive, and potentially kick goals. And he's a great age as well. What are your kind of thoughts there, mate?
I also owned Clark last year, and uh, I have to tell you, all right, because as an owner, I get very frustrated when I watch my players, and sometimes
Yep.
they make me very angry. So with Clark, when I brought him in, it was a gamble. It was either going to be Clark or it was going to be Whitfield, and I brought in Clark. Now, you know what Whitfield did, and Clark is he takes kick-ins, but not many. Okay, so he doesn't get all the kick-ins because there's a hog down the back, Luke Ryan, who wants he's going to almost cop a hammy by the time just to run into the back line to get the ball to take the kick-ins. So Clark, I like, but I don't know. I think he'll be a top 6, but he won't be a top 3 or 4. So, but still, as a pod, yes, Clark will be a pod.
Yep. I agree. I think, yeah, I still think he's going to be close enough up the top. And just with Freo's draw, I think they're going to be on more wins and losses, especially early on the year. So that's why I like him. But yeah, I can definitely see, like, as you brought up, McGovern, I think they're probably the two that stand out as potential pods in
Yeah,
that group that could definitely crack the top 10, if not crack the top 6.
the boy you got there underneath Clark, Ridley. I mean, we've all started
Mm,
him many times. We've all been burnt by him many times. He's gone to Qatar, okay, and that's where Yo went. And he's always had these problems with his calves and hammies or whatever it is. So uh, when they go to Qatar, or I don't know how to say, or Qatar,
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
when
yeah.
when they go there, something happens, magical happens down there. I don't know what they do there, but uh, he could be a massive weapon, but he has that early buy as well. But the
Mm.
good thing about Ridley, um, and this is actually a really good thing, is with Ridley, he's got the round 4 buy, and you can start him, and maybe like you say he's a no good, okay, and you watch him and he play like a poo poo, okay. You can then trade him off and swap him to Houston if you want to, because Houston has the round 3 buy, so you can do an interchange swap. So it's like you're having Ridley with a money back guarantee swap to Houston later on. So that's a possible play if you want to do that.
I like that, mate, and I think, yeah, he deserves a spot. And we'll find this because of some of these unique players will be coming because they have not only these injury concerns like Ridley has had, but because of that early buy, people are going to look at it and go, "No, I'm going to bypass that for a guy that is playing," and there's definitely valid reasons for that. But we do know that definitely the upside of, say, a Jordan Ridley if he's fit, because not only can he take the intercept marks over at Essendon, can get involved with the kick-ins as well. He has great upside, and we have seen runs from him. And I think you've got to, if you're going to go someone like Ridley, and I'm trying to think, it might have been MJ that I was talking to about this. Any player that's injury prone, like Yo last year, McGovern, you need to start them instead of trading them in, because if you trade them in, at some point you're going to probably need to trade them out. So you're now burning 2 trades. It's easy to start with these guys if you've got the confidence in them. And when it does happen, which for most likely it will at some point throughout the season, then move them on. But much better than trying to scramble to get them in.
Yeah, I actually live by that theory, and better to use one trade than 2. Okay, and it's always and you know me, I love wasting trades. I'm the king at losing
You
trades.
are.
So that's why I love Sun. That's why last year I started with Yo myself for that same reason.
Yep, for sure. All right, I'll scroll down. We've got to go a little bit more mid-pricery here. There's one for me that just stands out. I don't know how you feel about him. Ben and I have multiple arguments about this guy. That's from Port Adelaide, Kane Farrell. I don't think he's going to get any of the love that some are going to get. But my question has always been, who's taking Dan Houston's role? Who's taking his points? Now, Farrell was already in that back line. He was already taking some kick-ins. I think there's a big world. There's a definite huge world where he takes the monopoly of kick-ins and becomes the new Houston down there. kind of what are your thoughts there, mate? Do you think he's that sort of mid-pricer that could potentially push into that top 10 area?
I was going to do his review this week. I've got all these requests asking for Kane Farrell, so I've got to do a review on him. And as you know, I'm doing all these player reviews. It's not just for the audience, it's actually for myself as well. So I sort of study each player, so I sort of get an idea. Kane Farrell is one that I haven't done yet. But looking from my observation from last year, I want to when there were games where Houston didn't play last year, I want to know what Farrell scored in those games. So I was going to look those stats up to see what Farrell was doing when Houston wasn't there, and what he was scoring, because I'm not sure. Houston also kicked a lot of goals on his big scores. Like he'd have these massive scores, but he'd have like 3 or 4 goals. So, and Farrell is capable of also scoring 3 or 4 goals, but I want to do a bit more research on Farrell before I jump on him. But I would say at the moment, without the research, logically, it says that Farrell should do what Houston did.
That's what the logic is saying to me. But yeah, I think I agree. There is some reservations there. I think he's the one that sort of the only other player in that sort of price range, though, that even potentially looks good and kind of in that unique range is Trent Rivers from Melbourne. Just because now with Petrarca being injured again with the ribs, we know that he goes through that midfield. So it's the only two that really speak to me is going Farrell or Rivers in that sort of 400 range. There's nobody that I can really see there that I go, yeah, this guy's a player that I want to potentially jump on, who has the like the role, and that's the difference. Like Farrell's now got a potential higher role because he's lost Houston in there. No one else has come in. And Rivers because of the Petrarca injury. So can't really see anybody in that range who would also be classified as a unique player.
Probably Roberts, maybe. You can probably put from Sydney, maybe put Roberts there.
I think he's going to be popular.
Well, that's possible. Has he got the early buy or not?
He does. That's the only issue. But I can see him being way more popular than Rivers and Farrell.
Yeah. That's why that Ridley pick is so good, because with Ridley you can switch to either Houston or Roberts. So
exactly.
So you can work out which one you want, which one looks better, so you can sort of play around with that. You can even switch to Zorko if Zorko looks good. So you could, with that Ridley pick, you're getting a free look at Ridley with the opportunity of switching to one, because he's like a placeholder there for now, but not really. Or he could be a keeper. We don't know, but he's a good security blanket there in that defensive zone.
Yeah, actually, for sure.
I've talked myself into getting him now.
Mate, mate, I'll be watching him very closely through the preseason, because as much as we don't want to burn all our trades, we do have a lot these days. And I am a very big advocate of 1 or 2 of those trades being used for a player who you can potentially side swap through the buys if need be, and take a risk from. So yeah, last year it was Yo. It paid off for a lot of people. Obviously, I didn't go there myself, but those who did were rewarded. And Ridley is somebody who could definitely be that person this year. And I think you're right, because that early buy he'll be under 10%. It's kind of hard to find too many others in that sort of price range. And Rivers only sort of speaks to me more because now that Petrarca's gone down, I think it becomes Oliver, Viney, Rivers around that midfield. I don't think anyone will be really focused on him. I just don't know if he's got the scope that maybe Farrell has. We've been kind of waiting for this kid to, show it. But now, an extra season under the belt, if, Clary's going to continue to have issues and Petrarca may miss games of footy, there's definitely scope for him to get more CBAs. And if you're around the ball, you're going to obviously to have a better opportunity of either finding the ball or adding defensive pressure, which is something that he showed glimpses of, but he could definitely improve still.
Yeah, and they've also brought in Langford at Melbourne, so that young boy. So they may even play him there. So
yes, they could.
Yeah, so and there's actually 2 of them. There's another young boy there. I forget his name, but
Xavier Lindsay, is that the one?
Yeah,
you're thinking?
That's the one. So there's 2 boys there that can both get that midfield spot as well. Fighting with Rivers, because Rivers has already been tested in that midfield, whereas these 2 boys haven't. So maybe we don't know. So we're going to find out.
We might go with Farrell then. At least you've got the option like Robertson, even Jaden Short, cheaper if that was a play. So we'll have a look at that. I think he's one that definitely could be monitored. But out of that sort of range I'm looking through there's nobody else that stands out to me that goes,
no.
Hey, this guy could potentially be a top, 10, 15 player. So yeah.
And the thing also, okay, for me anyway, I find that when I pick these defenders, my biggest mistake, you learn from your mistakes, okay.
Yes.
So I make so many mistakes, and I learn from them. Then I make different mistakes, okay, because I'm the king of mistakes at the moment. But when I bring in these mid-price defenders, I say to myself, next year I'm just going to bring the best.
Yep.
And then I do it again. Okay. Then I bring in another. I see Kane Farrell. I see a Roberts, and I get excited, and I put these players in, and they're not top six. And I say to myself, why do I do it to myself? Why am I looking for a breakout player instead of looking for a genuine pod that is a top six? So Farrell is that risk. Is he going to be a keeper? Is he like he's not cheap. He's not like 200K or 300K like Mills. He's virtually borderline primo price.
Yes. Well, we can flick him out if you want me to.
Yeah. But we'll start with him now because
we'll start with him. We'll see. Yeah, it's all right. We'll start with the exercise. Yeah. We'll have a look. All right. So a lot of people have Callum Mills for good reason in that 357 price range. So he's going to be one of the most owned players. So we're going to avoid him for this exercise because we are looking at uniques. There's two uniques that stand out here, and I'm sure there's a couple. So one is Sam De Koning, and I'm sure you've got a lot to add to him. The other is Joel Frieger. I hope I've said that right. Who is playing so far in preseason, and both I guess match sim situations. He's been playing as a halfback flank player, and the one who's been kind of distributing out of halfback, which is very interesting. So I only played the 12 games last year, but just one to keep an eye on to see if he continues that role through that preseason, especially as we hit the preseason intra-club and preseason match. So yeah, just an interesting one there. But the one where I think both of us are a little bit more interested in is Sam De Koning. Mate, what thoughts?
Well, he's put on. I've got spies out at Geelong, and I'm getting all these text messages, and they're saying that De Koning has put on 7 kilograms. They're saying that De Koning is probably their number one ruckman right now, and there's going to be games where Conway is going to be their number one ruck, but Conway doesn't have that juice in the tank. Okay, he doesn't have. He runs on LPG gas. Okay, De Koning doesn't have the proper stuff. So. Sorry, I'm talking about Conway, but De Koning, he could be a massive smoky. Okay, he could be huge. He could be similar to his brother, Matt De Koning, depending if he has that role. So it's a gamble, but it's something we have to watch in the preseason and listen to the presses. But like I said, he's put on 7 kilos, so that's pretty good. We're trying to lose weight, and this guy's trying to put on weight. I can't believe this.
And I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, this guy is in contract year. I know his brother is, but there was that talk about, does one of the Connies get out? He's committed. But yeah, I'm pretty sure off the top of my head, this is it is his contract year too. So they're obviously going to back him in. They don't want to lose him. The guy is going to be a star for him for a long time. But you don't want a guy just sitting in the VFL because there'd be nothing worse than they get a bit disgruntled come halfway through the year, and we've seen plenty of it before where a player goes, you know what, I'm not getting an opportunity. Another club's come knocking on the door for me, and I might have a look at my options. Yeah, Sam De Koning is a non-free agent, but he is out of contract at the end of the year.
And Geelong don't pay big salaries to their players. They usually keep a pretty low scale. So they're not going to offer $1.5 million contracts. Whereas if someone does offer De Koning one of those big contracts, he's going to go for it. So he's there to prove himself.
Especially if he's out of the team. They're going to be like, so I think they're going to have to play him. More likely at centre-half back. But if they don't think he's more suited, maybe they are looking at him as a ruckman because they might not have the confidence in Conway. And Reece Stanley at 34 years old would pretty well, we all thought would retire. Clearly, they've asked him to stick around. Maybe he's sticking around as one of those like sort of ruck coaches or something like that, where because of the soft cap issues, and then he can stay there and potentially be a in case of need break glass, he comes in to support either Conway or De Koning. But and Stanley could potentially start there and then be faded out as the season goes on. But I think they definitely need somebody to stand up as the ruck. They didn't bring one in, so you think they've got a plan there, and it's either got to be Conway or De Koning.
Yep.
Beautiful. All right, we need to get into some cheaper options here. There is obviously some very popular ones at the moment. So the more expensive one right now is, say, Toby Trafalgar. So if we scroll down to kind of his price range, and there's a couple of people already in mind that kind of stand out for me that people aren't talking about. One I actually just scrolled through there. Jacob Blight, he could be looking at some early games now because Richmond have obviously acted on the suspension of Noah Bolter for 4 weeks. So I think some people are also talking about Luke Traynor. Potentially he'll be a little bit more highly owned. But yeah, Jacob Blight, because he did get the more of an opportunity last year, comes in this year, apparently has a massive preseason. He's in an awkward price range, but with Bolter not being there for at least a month, and then depending what happens with his court case, potentially longer, he is a kind of a smoky in a weird price range, but not unreasonable.
Yeah, he's been winning all the time trials at Richmond. He's killing it at training. So, and I heard that West Australian really wanted to get Jacob Blight in that draft and they couldn't because we snuck in and we got him. So I've heard a lot of good things about Blight, and we've seen him play. He looks decent, but we haven't seen the training and where he's going to play this year. But I think you're right. He could be the boy.
Yeah, I wasn't that hot on him until obviously the Bolter situation. And then I'm like, well, Richmond don't have Tyler Young, still out injured. It's Gipkus, they're not going to rush back. I know people have been asking me about putting Gipkus in their team. This guy is Richmond's Jacob Wiedering for the next 10 years. They're not going to risk him playing him first up if he's not completely right. He'll probably get some time, maybe in the VFL or whatever. They're not going to until he's ready. So Richmond are really down to sort of Ben Miller, maybe Therese, but a bit smaller. And Bauer, I think, was brought up to me, but I think Jacob Blight is because, especially his preseason, he's going to get the first opportunity there to cement his spot at either fullback or centre half back.
Can you imagine Richmond playing Carlton? They've got these towering full forwards in the first game, and we don't have a full back. But they're going to have a picnic there at Carlton.
Oh, I know.
First round.
Yeah, we might get that to the when we get to the fourth one, because Carlton do have a very soft draw, and they do have a couple of forwards that no one's really talking about. So we'll put our boy Jacob Blight in there for now because it is definitely a pod. He definitely ticks that box. It's not a great price, so people aren't going to avoid him, but we know he's going to have the role early on, and as we said, great preseason. So as I said, Toby Travola is one that a lot of people are looking at 172K. So we're not going to go him. We're going to scroll down. There's a couple of names, right? Go on.
Yeah, Pryor. You got the Pryor one there?
Yeah, so Pryor and Hardiman are the two that are slightly under him. I know Big J from the I've just gone blank on their Centre Bounce podcast. Is very big on Hardiman this year. But yeah, Jackson Pryor, who's was crossed over from the Brisbane Lions, 169K. So that is a potential alternative to Toby anyway. And you've got anything more to add to him, mate?
Well, from what I was hearing at the start of the virtually in December, all right, last month, they were saying that Pryor is going to take all the kick-ins. So I don't know if it's been confirmed or not. So we're going to have to send the spies out and have a look. But they were very high on Pryor, but since then it's gone quiet. All the talk on Pryor, so we're not sure yet. So it's a wait and see.
Yeah, wait and see. And that's a bit like how I feel about Riley Hardiman. Because potentially they want to get McKercher up the ground a little bit more, played half back in that first development year, did it really well, but that's how North Melbourne sort of do it. Sheasel, first year, played down half back, moved him into the guts. McKercher, does he move up to the wing and then get some CBAs as well? So who's that North Melbourne? player that takes that role.
Speaking of McKercher, he could have been even one on that list because he's
I
probably
actually looked at him too because I thought, and you know what, Big J said that to me. He's like, if you want a unique, so we might even rack off my man K Farrell. Like Ben will be wrapped because I've knocked him off because he was really big on talking to me, Big J, about McKercher this year. Not many people are going to own him. If he plays halfback, we know what he can do there. But if I think he's going to have to transition like Sheasel and spend more time up around the ball, probably will still get enough time around the back. But it could be the situation like Sheasel, like Dacos before him. Like, is this maybe the last year we get him as a defender, especially if he was to get some more centre bounce attendances? So, yeah, maybe that is the probably replacement there for Farrell.
Because from memory, I was listening to Scott last year, or not Scott, but the Hawthorn coach, and he was saying, the North Melbourne coach, and he was saying that McKercher is probably ready to take his new position next year. So that's what I recall hearing. So maybe McKercher in the midfield, or McKercher if he's on the wing, maybe not happy, but if he's in that midfield, it could do okay.
Yeah,
he's got a decent kick on him.
Yeah. He does. He sure does. And even if it's I don't mind if it's a wing, if it's an attacking wing too. Like if there's a clear defensive winger and there's a clear attacking where they're going to play through, I can nearly live with that. But it's just, we do know sometimes the ball gets shut out of one wing. So it does worry me, but I'd want to see a certain amount of CBAs. Like if he's getting 40% CBAs, then I'm still interested. Because
yes.
As if he was just a pure midfielder, then no. But he's a defender who, he's got the scope to improve to be a 105 guy, which is what we probably need as premium numbers in the defense.
Because the North Melbourne midfield is actually looking really solid right now. They got a few guns in that midfield now, and they got the Wardlaws and the Sheasels, and they got Parker now that goes in there. So they got quite a few in that midfield. So it's a tough gig to get into. But if you can get, like you said, if you can get that 30 or 40%. He might be decent, but it's going to be a look and wait and see.
Yes, 100% there. All right, we'll move on to the real cheap ones, and it's always hard with the cheapies because we sort of don't know who's coming through yet. And it is players there that if there have been any words about them, they have they're usually already finding time in our teams. And it's usually always the case of the preseason. So players will come and pop up, but a couple of names like Zach Reed did get through training as of this morning. So yeah, he's going to be a popular pick again. So I don't see him being in that unique price range. So we've got to kind of sort of go up like Saad Al-Hali. Is going to be probably one of the most owned, if not most owned player if he's there. He plays in round 0. So again, he doesn't fit the criteria. The sort of players that I am looking at here are Jed Buslinger. Has been on the Bulldogs list for a couple of years. They kind of do need that tall defender. So at 119K could definitely get early opportunities. Josh Fahey, now that the Peatling and Cumming have left to go to Adelaide. We've been sort of waiting for him for a while. And then also Caleb Smith from Richmond, just because there is some openings, though Richmond still have Voston, Short, and young Tom Brown's come in, but I have had a few messages asking about Caleb Smith. Ben Patton either also, but it's hard to break into that Swans lineup, but he has crossed over from St Kilda. Any of those sort of guys that you like, or is there anybody else maybe that I haven't mentioned here? James Leake is another one from GWS that you think would be a unique rookie that nobody's talking about.
I like Caleb Smith a lot, and I think he's the boy that's going to take over Rioli's role. And I don't think it's going to be Short. I think it's going to be Caleb Smith. So because Short doesn't have that dash, or lately can't even kick the ball. He kicks it back. He virtually grubbles the ball. He's become a hack. I don't know what's happened to Short, but
I know
you owned him, and he's frustrating to watch. So I think Caleb Smith for now, and that boy from GWS, and you mentioned the GWS has lost 2 of their gun players. There's a vacancy there. So
there is.
Fahey could be the one.
Yeah, I think so too. And also because he's GWS early buy, people will just ignore him. If he's anywhere near that starting 23, even if it's sub early on, I think he'll get opportunities because he might only be one injury away. So, he's one who nobody will be talking about at the moment. And we'll throw him in as well. We might just move to the ruck line before we jump in the midfielders and then the forwards. trying to also be mindful of us spending our cash here. Tristan Xerri is going to be the most owned ruck for sure. So we'll rule him completely out. Gone Dog's usually very popular as well. I'm not going anywhere near Marshall. I don't know if your thoughts on him, but by all reports, he's going to be playing more forward time anyway. So it's not even a guy who I think is going to be top 3 or 4 in the ruck line. Potentially, if he played enough forward time, we might get him as a DPP at some point.
He'll be a top 6 forward later on, so we could get him cheaper. We could probably pick him up around about 450, 500k-ish later on.
Yeah. So in regards to unique rucks who could potentially have the ability to go top, who people aren't talking about this year, Tim English is one that has done it in the past. I think everyone's going to stay away from him just because there's more sexier picks in this season. But I think he'll be definitely a unique come round 1. Brody Grundy was the big hot player last year that, again, with the early buy, no one's going to be looking at. But if you owned him between sort of round 1 and his buy, which I think was round 6, and traded him out, you would get so frustrated. But then he went in an absolute run. And now that he's got that second year under the belt with a coach who is arguably the best ruckman of all time, there is definitely, I think, growth for Grundy. Darcy Cameron has been mentioned by some people as well, because I think then you get the popular picks into Conning, Sean Darcy. So is there anyone there, mate, you like as our R1 who could potentially rival Tristan Xerri?
Yeah, the problem is that the ones that I like are going to be popular, so they're not going to be eligible. So if I was to go for the 5th best ruckman, because the 4 best ruckmen are going to be all taken, so I like Nank.
Yep.
Only because of his tackling ability, his marking ability, not necessarily his ruck work, but the rest of what he does is very similar to the way Xerri plays. Except Xerri gets a few more hit outs, but Nag is actually a good tackler, so he can score huge points as well.
Yeah, no, that's 100% fine, and I think we could be even more rubbish than we were last year. So he might have to be that sort of player that taps the ball straight down to the ground, and then if opposition gets it, just wraps his arms around them, and that's how he was getting huge tackle numbers. It became a little bit like how Riley O'Brien sort of taps down, because we're probably going to get beaten on the outside. So it's not like he can win the hit out and just bang it forward with confidence that our midfielders are going to win it, because we're going to have a lot of kids. So his tackle numbers could actually improve this year. And he is good enough to win ruck contests, especially against the weaker rucks. So he can put up massive sort of those vice captain numbers that we do like.
And I heard that on a podcast, on the Richmond podcast, that the 2 young boys that we got in, Laylaw, apparently Laylaw's on fire, and they're saying that Laylaw didn't spend much time in the forward line in the practice games. He's been doing all his drills in the midfield, so we may actually see Laylaw in the midfield, and we know Laylaw's strong, and then you got Smiley who's also strong. Then you got Taranto, who's a bull. So if Nank can tap to one of these boys, it's going to be hit out to advantage every time, because even though these boys may lose the ball and they're not the best of midfielders yet, getting first hands on the ball might not be a problem. So he may actually do okay, the Nank.
Yeah, for sure. There's no one really else, and unfortunately we need 2 rucks, but I'm going to put in Timmy English because I know he's done it in the past. It would not surprise me if he came out and rivaled the top rucks again. Because we know what he can't do in the ruck, but what he can do around the ground. And he is one of the best rucks to, if you want somebody to impact and get 20 possessions, get forward, kick a goal, he does that. Just those ruck rules last year probably didn't suit him, but hopefully that 12-month development of learning how to counter that, he comes up with a better plan. So I think if you're probably looking at R5, R6, R7, and this is why I've been big on if you are playing single season redrafts. So, and you're looking at a ruckman, let everybody take the good rucks first, because the gap between Nank, English, and even Grundy isn't that big compared to some of the hype ruckmen. I don't think it's going to be 10, 15 points for rucks who are going to go probably the 3rd or 4th round. Nank, English, Grundy, Darcy Cameron are probably going after the 10th round. So I think you can pick them with a lot of confidence.
Yep, I agree.
And then we need a cheap ruck. And this is where we earn our money, mate. Trying to pick usually we're trying to pick a ruck here for maybe it's a loophole situation. But I think there's one ruck here that no one's going to be looking at who has been drafted for a reason. And because this team doesn't have now, he's a little bit more expensive. I don't like having my R3 at 147K, but Melbourne literally have no one else but Tom Campbell. Like, I don't think Tom Fullerton, who they brought in last year, is the answer. If Max Gawn goes down, they have no one else to ruck.
Yeah, I like Tom Campbell pick. I also like that St Kilda boy who's not actually on our app, so we can't even see him. So, but
mate, I think he's going to be the highest owned R3 player.
You're right. You are right. You are right. Yeah.
But I agree, mate. So we'll spend a little bit more because I think Tom Campbell will. If Gawn goes down, he's going to get an opportunity. That's why they've picked him up. So it's we'll go with that. All right. So how are we going? We've got a midfield and a forward line to fill.
We're going to struggle. We're going to struggle with that forward line because all those good players that are good, everyone's going to have them. So we're going to be left with peanuts.
We are, mate. But we'll find them because this is what we do, mate. This is what we do. 100%. Maybe we'll go the forward line and we'll see what money we've got left for the midfield. We might have to go a bit more basement price here and see if what we can find because this is going to be a little bit more difficult. So everyone's going to have Horn Francis. If you wanted a premium, Dylan Moore's probably not going to get picked compared to everyone else. I think Rankin's still going to have his love, people loving him. Harry Mackay and Curnow, no one's going to go near because people obviously got burnt a bit last year. But you just did talk about one of those guys is going to dominate Richmond in round one. It would not be completely out of the question them coming out and kicking 6-7 goals. With Bolton not being there. Round 5 they play West Coast. Round 6 they play North Melbourne, and then before in that bye period they play West Coast and North Melbourne again. So inside the first 15 rounds, they play West Coast, North Melbourne twice, and they have Richmond. Charlie Curnow or Harry Mackay could completely get off the chain here.
I agree. And the worst part is when I watched Charlie Curnow last year and I owned him, it was make me so upset. But and if he goes at 120, 110, it's going to make me even more upset than when I don't own him. So he's one of those players. But I agree, one of those two is going to go nuts.
I know JP likes Harry more, and because he can be the relief ruckman, especially if they play a one ruck, surely they don't keep throwing Cripps in the ruck there. So we'll go big H, but it would not surprise me if it's Curnow. I think one of these Blues forwards potentially wins the Coleman. Again, it's probably more likely to be Charlie. We saw what Charlie was it 2 years ago. Pretty well won the Coleman because he kicked 20 goals against West Coast in 2 games. If he's getting that much delivery, I fear going round 1 because I think it could be ugly for us Tigers supporters. I'm hoping it's not. I really hope I'm wrong, but I don't have a lot of faith right now.
No, neither do I. I can smell blood.
I don't know if actually Liam Baker's going to be popular enough. Like, is he going to actually potentially be unique at 430? Because everyone's looking at all the other players in that range that we're about to get into. And
yeah, I did his review and I really didn't like what I saw on the Liam problem. Baker. Yeah.
Shai Bolton's going to be too high.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think he's going to be over unique, but
yeah,
which is a problem. Do you have him in your side at the moment? Because I actually do.
No, I don't have him yet. I've only got 3 forwards in my 3. I've got 3 rookies playing in my team in the forward line.
Yeah.
That's current structure.
That's good. Okay, so we know Bailey Smith. We need to. There might be Jack Graham. Have you even looked at him? He's probably going to get midfield time at West Coast at 376. So that is potentially a unique there, but I just obviously don't think he's got it in him to be a top scoring forward.
No.
It's a bit sad here. Luke Parker's going to be highly owned.
Is he going to be highly owned, you reckon?
You know what? He's probably going to be less than other people. Like, I'm not as big of a fan. Like, he's going to be interesting to see his ownership because everyone's obviously going Bailey Smith, McRae, probably Horn Francis.
and Powell. So they're going to go or Philippou or Poo, whatever they
Well,
call
do
him.
you know
But
what? Is Philippou or Parker going to be the more owned? This
I
is going
think
to be an
Philippou,
interesting question.
yeah, it has to be Philippou
I
because
think
people owned
so.
Philippou last year. So Parker's not going to be
Yeah.
that highly owned.
Okay, we'll go Parker because it'd be interesting to see how far he gets. I think he was going to go over that unique just, but I think it's not the. It'll be close, so we'll kind of cheat a little there, and
Yeah.
we'll put him in. This guy's an interesting one, Riley Sanders, and Parker might even squeeze out because we might even find a couple more players here. But we know Bevo killed him last year. Was used sub in frustrating games and stuff like that. But apparently, in all the match sims at the moment, he has been really impressive, playing that forward mid role. And who have the Bulldogs lost this year, mate?
Well, they've lost their forward. They've lost McRae, and
Yes.
I don't know. I love Sanders. I absolutely love Sanders, but I have a problem with Bevo. He's ruined that kid. If Sanders doesn't play this year, Sanders will leave. So they'll have to play him.
I think they could, and I think he's the one, and he's kind of the one I really want to replace Luke Parker with because I think they have to back him in. He's not going to get the sub games like he did last season. There is a more of a role. They need to play some youth in that, like Chalor and Libba are getting on. So it's kind of now or never where they need to have a look at some of these players and go, hey, we need to blood some time into a Sanders, give him more midfield time to kind of have a look at his future because I think he could he's the key. He was highly picked. And the big thing for him is, we know he's a Tassie boy. So they don't want him sticking around just long enough for that he leaves for Tasmania.
Exactly.
That would be the worst situation. So, you know what? If you don't mind, I'm tempted to actually replace him for Parker.
Yeah, let's go to Parker.
Because he's a left field one. And I've got one other one from the Bulldogs, which is a mate who did message me about this the other day. But I'm just having a quick look at Sanders and his stats where he had what did he have? I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4 games sub-affected last year for his average of 62. So yeah, you take out if he's not anywhere near the sub, there's definitely growth.
Plus, he was playing out of position. He wasn't playing in the right position as well. So he could be an 80, 90 boy. Maybe 90 is easy if he gets that midfield time. Maybe even plus. Maybe even 95-ish.
Yeah, not out of the question at all. There's one guy actually I did miss in that 400 range. So I've got a few mates absolutely hot on this guy. Actually, Matt Kennedy's been brought up. I don't know if you've done your review on Matt Kennedy, but a few people have also discussed him as a potential kind of unique guy who's crossed over from Carlton. It was a weird team to go to because I felt like the Dogs already have midfielders and he wasn't going to get the midfield time at Carlton. He wants to play midfield. So maybe Bevo has said, well, we've got a spot for you. We're going to give you midfield time because when this guy's in the guts, he scores really well. The problem is if he's not in the guts, he's a dud pick.
If you went to any other team, I'd in a heartbeat, I'd put Matt Kennedy in there, but at the Dogs. Oh, so who goes out of that midfield?
Well, that's unless they. Well, I'll give a little thing here. Chalor was actually meant to play cricket with us before Christmas, and has actually a calf complaint. So he missed our game. So I don't know. I don't think it's bad, but he is aging. You start getting these soft tissue injuries. We know he was so good last year, but we know he's had the soft tissue injuries in the past. So that needs to come into.
Yeah, they've got Ed Richards as well, who was tested.
And they do have young Richards who's playing there, and then Libba's getting on even further now in age. So Chalor's going to be 32 by the time the season comes around.
Libba's 55.
Yeah, Libba plays like a 55-year-old.
You've got the Bont in there who sometimes moves to the forward line, sometimes in the midfield, but Ed Richards. We just talked about that young boy here. Sanders is also in that midfield. So
yeah, I'm not as huge on that Kennedy pick, but the Bulldogs player that I need to bring up is Sam Darcy. So I've been getting quite a few messages about him as thinking that this guy is just going to rip the competition a new one this year. We saw it in glimpses last year. He did put up games of 99, 146, 113, 109. Norton's going to get the most attention. Jamara's down there too. So Darcy usually gets the third defender. Can play chop out in the ruck as well. And, so average 80 last year, is now in that sort of, being in the system. This will be his fourth season. What are your kind of thoughts there on Sam Darcy, mate?
It's not Sam Darcy himself, but it's a similar with Harry Mackay. It's just that full forward position. I always try to pick midfielders in our forward line. So I mean, I love Sam Darcy. I think he's a jet. Well, as a unit, but what's his price at?
He's really 419, which is 427, which is not the best. Especially one message I got from someone was Sam Darcy, somebody I'm looking at for the second half of the year, as my F6 position, because with the flex covering it with my either M9 or R3, he's going to be the guy that's going to put up massive scores. But if he puts up a stinker, it doesn't matter because my flex is going to cover me.
Yeah.
Now, it's not somebody I probably wouldn't normally want to start with, but maybe for this exercise we put him in. But the fact that that really opened my eyes, going, that's actually not bad, because here is a guy, if they get the right game, especially your Richmonds, your West Coast, whatever, he could just put up some monster scores.
What would be ideal is having two full forwards in your team, like an F6 and an F7. And wait for their draws. It's like how I play my EPL games, and I have if someone plays against Liverpool, for example, they're on the bench, right? So if someone's playing a top team, they go on the bench. But if they're playing a weak team, they go on field and they swap with their full forward. So if you can have two full forwards after the bye rounds, maybe even a Kerno, believe it or not, but if you can have two full forwards like Sam Darcy just mentioned, it's a good play.
Yeah, and I just sort of had a look at their draw, because this person who messaged me said after their bye. Well, after their bye, the Hawks at Marvel, but they do have St Kilda, Richmond at home, North Melbourne at home, Adelaide at home, Bombers at home, Giants at home, Melbourne at home, West Coast at home, Freo at home. Actually, Melbourne's at the G, but pretty well it's the same thing. West Coast at home and then Freo at home. That is pretty soft for that run home, and might be something to put at the back of our minds. Come around that bye time. Hopefully Darcy has a couple of stinkers, because they do play sort of, Geelong and Port and whatever leading into that bye period. And if he can drop down to mid 300s but showing form, these are the sort of guys that help you win your Supercoach. So we might just throw him in there for now. If we get a better option, we can always replace him. But I like it. All right, we need to find some cheap options here, because we want to spend money in there. Lukosius, I don't really like him, but Todd Marshall has gone down with an injury, so he will come in straight away. The security blanket has helped out big time there. We'll see if we can find Noah Bolter. Well, I'm not going to obviously.
Are there any mid forwards there that we can probably throw in there that maybe?
I'm doing the very quick scroll to see if there's any mid forward, but we might go down the real cheaper end and see if there's anyone that people aren't talking about from here. Caleb Daniel is going to be one of the most owned players. Ben Hobbs, I haven't really heard. Actually, Elijah Sardis is actually getting more and more traction. Apparently did really well in they matched him again this morning, but I don't know if he's a forward mid or not. We'll see if he comes across here. Who else do we have that isn't being talked about? Tom Lynch has got his lovers. Sam Powell.
Tom Lynch is very similar to that Darcy conversation you were just having as or best 22 of the flex in the so you can sort of have. He's going to have a game where he kicks 4 goals a game, and he's going to have a lot of games where he kicks 1 goal a game. But when he kicks those 4 goals, he's probably going to get that 100 points.
All right, so I've got some from the rookie point of view, which we'll get some rookie price players in here. Luke Pedlar, MJ, massive on this guy. Potentially could start as sub, but he's next in. And if you take out his sub scores, he's got the ability to actually score quite well. So on the basis of MJ there, really quite like him, what he could potentially bring there for Adelaide. I think Joe Berry might be owned enough, but Port Adelaide kind of crying out for maybe a extra small forward. He's got a lot of good grunt about him. Caden Cleary, so people who I think even our Sydney guest Kai was big on him. He was part of the emergencies for the grand final, which just shows how highly they rate him up in Sydney. So he is kind of a real left field guy that can come into that forward line. And depending on what Cox kind of thinks of him, but I've heard that there is quite a bit of a love for somebody like him. In regards to other cheapie, there is one other one that I really do like, and then we'll see if we can pick a couple more from you, is Brisbane's Brandon Ryan, wherever he's gone in here. There he is, 119K. Brisbane have lost Danaher, so they're looking to replace that centre-half forward. They picked up Ryan the year before from Hawthorn, part of that Gunston trade. Hawthorn did not want to give him up. And so, though I don't expect a lot, he in the premiership team is going to get a lot of opportunities if he locks down that centre-half forward role. We know key forwards can be hit and miss, and especially usually when they're young, but Brandon Ryan isn't a young key forward. He's actually mature. Was he born in 97? So I'm just trying to see the exact.
I've actually never heard of him.
I think he's 27 this year.
Okay.
But Brand, yeah. So this is one that I know Ben and I were talking. Yeah, 27 years old. So he is going to be most likely the replacement for Joe Danaher in that Brisbane lineup.
Well, and definitely one to watch. Yeah,
one to watch. So we'll put him in the uniques because if he gets the first opportunity, mate, there's a rookie there that no one is talking about who could just slot into the premiership side.
Any Richmond boys we got? Can we fit a tight?
Yeah, well, I think of the all of and Jasper Elgar is probably the one. I think Harry Armstrong will get opportunities throughout the season. I think I had Richmond supporters choke when I said Cozzy might get the first chance, but Elgar, at least he's that sort of mid-sized player. So
actually, you mentioned Cozzy. Apparently, he's going to be a defender, playing a centre half back. But I don't know what his price is. So if his price is too much, forget it. But as a forward that plays in defence, it's not a bad shout, depending on his price.
Yeah, I think his price isn't going to be great because he played enough last year.
Yeah.
Where I think, like Elgar might have been the youngest player in the draft. I'm just trying to sort of see there, but he's, I think he gets some opportunity at some point because at the moment I've kind of got Steely Green. Maurice Rioli hasn't probably nailed down the spot. Like he'll be in and out if he perform poor performances. So I think Elgar's one to kind of look at. In that sort of price range, and I don't know if there's anyone. We need one more play here. Let's have a look if anybody really stands out for me. I'd love to pick Jesse Detoli, but he's out for 4 months with an injury. Otherwise,
what about that Carlton boy that went to Geelong?
Jack Martin.
Yeah, what's he gonna do?
M thinks he's going to be a bit more on the outer. Actually, I think Ashton Moyer from Carlton that JP was mentioning. Oh no, Lord. Where's Lord on here? There was another one. I'll see if I can search in for Carlton, see what prices he's in because he definitely mentioned Lord and I'll see if he's a forward because he must be a midfielder. That's annoying. All right, we need one more. So this always gets hard with the prices and stuff. I wonder if actually I'll have a look at Cozzy's price because I think Richmond supporters will be hating that, but at the same time we might need somebody to go play down defense.
He actually played in defense last year. I actually liked what he did when in defense. He actually looked good in defense.
272. It's like it's not the worst price, but if it was like 200,
270 is too much.
270 is too much because he's not gonna, It's just,
if you're going to buy a spud, you might as well pay cheap for a spud. Yeah,
well that's right.
Why pay extras for a spud?
Yeah, you're happy to kind of take a risk on that sort of player when they are a bit more cheaper. I really want somebody here for the community. This way, actually, like I've got Fawcett at the moment, but Tom Fulton,
Erasmus.
Yeah, but is he going to be highly owned? I think he's going to be one of the higher picks. I really like
at the Dogs, but he won't get a game.
Well, he's probably deserves a game. They've just got so many options. That's the other Narkle maybe. I think Kako will be highly owned. These sort of guys I don't want to pay too much more money for. I
wish Taj Houghton after mid-season could
be mid-season.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could be huge. Maybe we check him. Maybe Tom Fulton. But Melbourne do need someone. They did draft him for. They did recruit him for a reason. Constantine, I think, is going to be too popular. Oh God. Maybe we put Taj in there with the hope that he gets opportunities later in the year. Maybe Jordan Croft. Maybe we go your boy.
Yeah.
So, we'll put Croft in there. It's not the end of the world. Somebody will come out of here.
Well,
all right, 3.6 million for the midfield.
We've got no money left.
Flex. That's all right. And we've got a flex too, so we can get a cheap guy in the flex. All right, let's. We might have a look at some rookie options, and then we can go spending. So rookie midfielders who people aren't talking about. There's a couple I've already got on the mind.
Well, there's a number one pick that no one's going to have, Lalo, and no one's going to pick him.
No, I don't think as many people, because I'm more on Smiley too, and there's so many other options. So as we scroll up to him, we'll definitely put him in because he has been struggling with that some soft tissue injuries. But I think there's definitely. Chris brought up Harry DiMatteo. I think he's not that far away. Henry Huswaite was frustrating for us last year because he probably didn't set the world on fire. But he wasn't. He still got opportunities, so he might be closer than what we think.
He looked so good in the preseason last year. I remember he was killing it in the preseason.
He really was,
and I was shocked that he didn't even get a game round one. So yeah,
maybe another year under the belt. So we'll put him in there. The other one, Emily's huge on Mitch Nevitt. So the little diamond that she dropped for us here, the little nugget, was the fact that last year, I think Lawson Humphrey, she was saying, or was somebody like that from Geelong, was in some of the promotional ads and stuff they were doing and some of the goal kicking challenges. And this year, Nevitt's been appearing in some of that stuff for Geelong.
Well, so Dan Batten has also been huge on Nevitt. So there's two people with high reputation that have been huge on a rookie. So maybe he is the one.
Yes, so he's one who's slightly cheaper than some of those other ones. I really like Xavier Lindsay. I think he might be cheaper than what some other people. I think these two here, Lombard and Lindsay, might be a little bit less popular because everyone's going to be going Smiley, Levi Ashcroft. People are looking at your Jager Smiths, Finno Sutherlands. So I think those guys might be better.
Got a call coming. Can we pause for a second? Sorry.
You take the call, mate. I'll continue on. While Abs comes back. Elijah Sharders is obviously a very popular person. Will Brodie, again, has been getting some midfield time. So I'm going to add a couple of people here while he's just off stage. I don't think Xavier Lindsay is going to be more than 10% kind of come at the end of January, but people will jump on him a little bit further as time goes on. Lombard will be interesting because I think that early buy might put people off, and just because there's other people to pick. The other one I kind of like is a cheapie is Zach Evans. He's crossed over from cricket, so we know he's got the athletic profile. It's just more of a case of can he sort of learn those little positioning parts to it. And Tom Goss has also been talked about as a potential player that where he might get opportunities at West Coast. So we'll go with him, and then we'll go with a couple of we'll back Lombard, and I think I agree with you that Laylor may not be, just because of his price and some of the other options, which would then leave us 4 premium guys and a flex, which still leaves us 276 million there. So I've included. We've gone with Lindsay because I think he'll be under the 10%. Just Gross has been getting to a little bit of talk by West Coast supporters of potentially getting an early look in. Lombard and Layla, I think, of all the popular options, will be less high owned than the others. I could have put Sardis in there. I have question marks about Sardis, but I think it's now or never for him. There is talk that he's getting some CBA time, so maybe I have him instead of Lombard because maybe Lombard gets a little bit higher picked. But that kind of leaves us 4 players and a flex. So we might have to come back to one of them to fit these guys in. But I think that's not a bad rookie profile.
If you've got 4 players, 5 players, divide that by 2.7 mil, that's close to around about 550 each. So,
each. And if we take, and maybe even for the flex, maybe if we take let's just say we went Lombard and maybe somebody else comes across, that'll leave us with a lot more scope, and we can always sort of change that. So where are we? We're here for the Gold Coast Suns. Back down here. I don't think there's anybody else. Oh, there is that Lord guy, Cooper Lord. What price is he? I think he's too expensive. Yeah, no, I don't like that. That's 253. Sam Banks is another one from Richmond at 252. It's just to keep an eye on. But again, I don't completely like the price. McAuliffe's in there. So a lot of these sort of guys in that 200 range, which we kind of usually try to stay away from, could get a bigger workload this season, for sure. But let's go Lombard for now. Even maybe Harry Sharp. He's an absolute speed machine that Melbourne have picked up from the Brisbane Lions. Langford, you know what? Langford might be the less popular one because everyone's looking at the other ones. And I think you're right. Like, he could get opportunities because Petrarca's out. So I haven't seen anybody with Langford in their team at the moment.
I like that Langford pick.
Yeah, let's get that.
And he's an absolute jet.
He is. I wasn't disappointed if he got through twice at Richmond. So that does give us a bit of spending money here. Left over for our last 4 guys. Yeah, that's what we like. Money to go shopping.
Yeah, we've got cash. We can go Myers today now. We'll have to go to Marketstone more.
That's right, mate. That's right. All right. Key players here in this midfield who are going to be uniques that could potentially still be sort of around that top 10 midfield range.
Well, Lockie Neal, he's got the bye, but does he ever go bad, Lockie Neal? He's guaranteed a top 4 in the Brownlow medal every year. So even though he's getting older, he's not getting younger. So, but has to be in that in the top 8 midfielders anyway in the year.
Yeah, mate, 100%. Like, I would have loved to own him at point last year. He's a guy who still put up 168, 162, 149, 179, 143, and 166 last season.
Yeah, 2 players I didn't own last year that ruined me. All right, and just watching them, and I just wanted to turn off my laptop. And one was Lockie Neal, and the other one's Whitfield, and those 2 destroyed me.
Yeah, 100%. And because of that early buy, again, no one's going to be looking at. And again, with this team, it's not like you would pick this entire team because there's too many buy players. But if you've got 29 players that don't have the buy early on, or 27 players that, or even the midfield, you've got a whole midfield without a player without the buy. You can have one, and Lockie Neal could be your one. Like, he's got the ability to out-average players who don't have that early buy, just because he's just that good.
Now you got Isaac Heaney there. What's he going to do this year?
Well, this is the question on the coach, because they've got Heaney, Warner, who they don't want to lose. Do they have to try to give him all the opportunities? You've got Mills coming back. Heaney was so good in that midfield, like that absolute career year. Can he back it up and go 116 again? But geez, he was a good player for us last season.
His back half of the year wasn't the best compared to the front half. So, and that was a bonus for the owners that started with him, because at the start of the year he was on fire, and if you didn't have him and you brought him in later on, you didn't get those big scores. But is he going to be the one? You mentioned Treloar, the fact that he couldn't even come for a cricket game, so the grandpa maybe pass on him. Zach Merritt, I like. Not many will own him.
I don't think anyone will own him compared to others, because not really many people started him last year. And then just that news that he could be playing some halfback will have some people scared off as well.
Well, actually, if anything, that halfback role should be it's going to be an advantage for him. CBAs, it doesn't matter. At Essendon, anyone that plays halfback, we saw Spuds at halfback going crazy. Zach Merritt is a Rolls Royce at halfback. He'll go nuts.
Yeah, so I don't think it matters where he plays, and I do think he comes under 10% for sure. Yeah. So he's one that I do like. Cripps had maybe one of the best years in Brownlow history. I think he did have the best year in Brownlow history. Can he go better? We just talked about that draw. I think Sam Walsh is going to be the popular one. nobody's going to probably touch Paddy Cripps.
And Cripps against all those boys at Richmond, he's going to go nuts. It's going to be a bloodbath for round one.
I hate it. Other guys are, like we mentioned before, we sort of locking Cripps. Brayshaw, some people are saying he could have a career year. Others are looking at Young. So they're sort of looking at alternatives from the Freo boys instead of Sarong. So there is a bit of love with him. He's consistently averaged around that 110 mark. So I do get that. I don't think many are going to jump on Goulden last year, but the Cox did you see a repeat 2K time trial, just putting his stamp on the Swans, and he won one and came third in the other. So, geez, this guy's a running machine.
He is.
And he was awesome. Did you own him last year?
Goulden?
Yeah.
No, I didn't own him because of one reason. All right, and that's because of his wing role. I wasn't sure if he's going to play wing or in the midfield. So I like my mids to play midfield.
Yeah.
So and Goulden does get a lot of that wing role. So his scores fluctuate a lot depending on where he plays.
As somebody owned him, I think all year, like I'll take the 108 average off him. He was. Yeah, he was brilliant.
The average is awesome. It's just that the fluctuations that would drive me nuts.
Yeah, and they will. They 100% will. Noah Anderson, again, it's another interesting one. The Suns are going to improve. You think he's the one leading it. Scroll down. There's one that I know a couple of people are hot on, and Jordan Dawson. The last 2 years, he was brilliant for us. Last year, he had a real poor year. And the talk is he actually had a leg or foot injury. So that's why his disposal efficiency went down further. Rory Laird is reported to be going back to half back, which does now. And if Map crouches, we don't even know if he's going to be in or out of that side, depending on which way they're going to go. But if Jordan Dawson isn't Mr. Fix-It and he is fully fit, here is a guy who's valued at 102 who can go 115.
I agree. The only thing with Dawson as a non-owner, last year, and I was watching him closely because I was obviously hoping that he wouldn't score that well, was a lot of his big scores, like those big scores that he got last year, all came in that last quarter when the game was close. So he got so many scaling points. He'd be on like 90 at three-quarter time, and before you know it, he's on 140 at the end of the game because of scaling. So he's good for scaling, but it's not a really true indication of what he should have scored. So it's sort of but then again, Adelaide will have a lot of close games, so maybe that scaling will come again this year as well.
Yeah, I think they've got to improve, don't they, off their poor form last year? If they don't, Nix is out the door. So, and their start of the season is really friendly. If they're not winning games early in the season, and they may as well just swap the coach now because, Saints, Bombers, North Melbourne, Suns, they've got Freo. The Carlton one's a bit harder. Showdown's interesting. But then, sort of West Coast. I think there's games there that need to win, or even around the middle of the year, that bye period that we always like, Richmond and Melbourne back-to-back do finish off quite well as well. He's the captain. He's got to lead some examples.
We can't put him in that.
I think we can put him in that bracket because that guy's got the scope to be a top 8 midfielder.
And they always look for him. Like even on the wing, they'll kick it to him. It's always their attacks are all based around Dawson, so they always look for him anyway. So I like Dawson, but
we can probably go either one more premium, or we might be able to get 2 mid prices and upgrade one of the guys that we've already got in there. We have 742. So I was just doing the math in my head. If we flicked off a like one of these like a Xavier Lindsay or whatever, we'd have about 900,000. So we could maybe get 200 to 450 guys or around that mark if there is there, which probably strengthens up our team a little bit more. I'm just trying to sort of scroll down. Had a few questions about Taranto, but I'm just worried about obviously the Tigers. So personally, I'm not going there. Darcy Parish is an interesting one.
Yeah, I like that. I like Darcy Parish. And an uninjured Darcy Parish is a monster. He's averaged 116 from memory before. And if we see Zach Merritt playing in defence or off half back, Parish is going to be their number one midfielder. So I really like. Parish is in my team, but the only thing with Parish is he's going to be popular. He's not going to be a
I don't know if I don't know if he will be popular because he's got the early buy. I think everyone's going to jump on Oliver or Will Ashcroft, and they're not going to go Parrish.
Because Ashroff's also got that early buy.
Yeah,
But
he
as
does,
you
but
said,
but he's that more sexier name because he's won
yeah,
the
yeah.
Norm Smith.
I suppose
So
for a premiership team.
I think Parrish comes in under 10% to start the
Okay,
year.
well, if that's the case, we're jumping on Parrish.
Yeah, I think we're jumping all over him.
Yeah.
Because I'm predicting here, this is the team under. We're putting our reputation here, mate. Under 10% come January 31st, and I think Parrish will be under 10% at that point.
So this is a team of weapons.
This
What
is
we're
a team of
saying.
the weapons that we're looking at. George Wardlaw at 461 definitely has his fans, but he's going to be he'd be definitely unique. Who else is sort of in that range? Adam Chera, I've had quite a few questions for at the moment because he did have that one massive year a couple of seasons ago. Carlton do have an easy fixture. I don't know where you kind of sit with him.
Does he play halfback, Adam Chera? Because I noticed last year he was playing a little bit of halfback towards the back end. Or
the hard thing with like sort of Chera is like where does he fit in? Because it's Cripps, Walsh, and Hewitt. So now that Kennedy's completely moved out of the equation, is Chera definitely the fourth banana who goes in there? But they have picked up young Jager Smith.
Yes,
too.
And I think Smith is slots straight into that midfield.
Mm. So I don't know exactly where Chera's positioning happens. The other one that I don't think and needs to probably be included is Harley Reid at 434.
Yes.
And again, I actually think just because this year, like he'll have definitely he could be borderline 10% because other people are going to be looking at some of these other names who are a little bit higher on this list and be like, oh, he's such an awkward price. But then he's going to have his fans because they're all like number one pick playing at West Coast, probably already their best player.
Plus, he's going to have a tank. Well, I don't know how he's training, but his tank last year was 3/4 of a game, and that was it. That was his tank was gone. But if that tank improves to a full game, he's dangerous. He can go nuts.
He sure can. I'm just trying to work out which player do I need to kick to fit him in there. I don't really. It might be Elijah Sardis here that might have to go. It might be short-lived in our team just to fit him in. So let's sorry.
Well, Laidlaw's got more cash on him. Maybe just get rid of Laidlaw.
Yeah, maybe we get rid of Laidlaw and that because he's the number one guy. So he probably's got more love than that. Still left us with 30 grand. Look at that. We had 30 grand to spend in the bank anyway. So let's save that team. Have a look at how it finalized, which is beautiful. Team is saved. So I don't like it when with this you've actually got to then sub some of these guys on off the bench. So just because the proper super coach when it opens it doesn't have this problem, but it does at that sort of this time of year. I think we've picked all the other players how we would probably want. Yep, let's save our team.
The good thing about this team is it either finishes last or it finishes first because
100%. There'll be somebody out there who will just be like, I'm going to make a fake account and start this team and see how it goes and that. But
this could be a good for one of those one-off higher score weekly score teams if you're going to have one of those things.
And if you're doing that, guys, because you can't. If you have two teams, you are ineligible. They have ways of tracking that. So it's just a little thought there. If that's how you're doing stuff, if your mum or dad live at another address, get them on their Wi-Fi. Pop over, see them. Get your mum some flowers. Get your dad some pair of socks. And while you're there, say, can I jump on the laptop for a computer for a moment? Fill out a team under their email, under their Wi-Fi system, and then throw it in. And that's how you get away with your second team. Gives you an excuse to go see your family. So yeah, because a few people have been caught out with that. I really shouldn't be saying that as a expert of the Herald Sun and Supercoach, but bugger it, guys. We're all about engagement here. So there's just another little nugget. So we've ended up with Whitfield, Ridley, McKercher, DeConning, Blight, and Pryor with Caleb Smith and Farley. We've got Neil, Merritt, Dawson, Day, Parrish. That's a pretty stacked midfield.
That's
Reid,
a good midfield.
Sardis, and Lindsay with Nevitt, Huswaite and Gross on the bench. Nank and English in the rucks with Tommy Campbell as the backup. Mackay, Darcy, Sanders, Pedlar, Cleary, Ryan with Croft and Elgar. I don't really like that forward line. This is why obviously it doesn't work so much. But if you replaced a couple of those guys with obviously the premium guys, it works a lot better. And Langford's actually a really good pick there as a unique midfielder who's going to probably get opportunity, especially with Petrarca's injury. So I actually really like that team, mate. There's some players there that's actually got me thinking, scrolling through my own team, going, oh, maybe I can fit them in, or look at that.
Yeah, I really like that exact Merritt pick. I wish I could fit him in my team, but I can't. But
Darcy Parish is the one I don't have at the moment that is standing out for me big time. I've played with McKercher. I kind of do like him as well.
I like the Ridley pick a lot. The Ridley pick.
Ridley one's the other one
because it gives you that option to then move to a Houston or to anyone else that's starring. So that Ridley pick really. Actually, I might even jump on Ridley after seeing this. So maybe Ridley's not too bad.
Yeah, no, I love it. Oh, thank you so much, mate. This has been a lot of fun catching up with you and playing around with our unique team.
Well, thank you for once again having me on the show, and always a pleasure to have a chat with you.
Guys, in the comments below, if there's other unique players that you guys are looking at, definitely leave a message, and I'm sure we'll have a look through it. And in our separate podcast, we might, especially the great man doing his reviews, he might be able to review one or two of those players for you if there's somebody that you pick up that we haven't. And feel free, call us out on 31st of December if when those percentages come out, and if we've probably gone the wrong player, but I'm pretty confident most of those guys. Well, the thing is, some of these guys might become more than 10% now that we've talked about them.
Are we still on?
Yeah, we're still on. I was going to say, yeah, I think that's it. So, no, it's all good. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.